Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We wanted to say hi to everyone and happy holidays. And here are some conversations in today's discussion is about the goal and the purpose of WD Level 1. But before we begin, some introductions are necessary. Out there, we don't have her photo, but Sue Morrissey, our president, was so encouraging and gave the go-ahead. And thank you, Sue, for believing in all of this. Thank you. And you've seen Mary Linton. She's at the top. She is our go-to IT gal. She's been awesome. She helped me pull things together, and she's running our call tonight. Thank you so much. Carol Ann was in charge of keeping track of all of us, the lists, getting the emails out. Great. It takes a whole team to get this done. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. Our next month's meeting, which is the second Tuesday of January, don't have that right in front of me, but I'm going to look at the calendar here, girls, is January 9. January 9, second Tuesday of the month, 7 o'clock. And this month is about first level, but next month is developing into second level and what we're looking for in second level and how the collection begins to develop for you. So this kind of leads you forward towards more collection, and that was the idea of these discussions. So thank you so much for joining. Mary's suggestion to us all was we occasionally want to get some of you to join in. I know Joanne's out there, Suzanne's out there. We just saw Joanne Coy for a minute was out there. So my colleagues are here, and we want everyone to possibly join in or make a comment or whatever. Yes, join in. So Mary, can you explain to them where to find the chat or the hand up signal?
Yep. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see your little video and then participants. The chat is right next to participants, and you can just click on that and write any comments or questions that you have. And then if you move over quite a ways, you'll see a little smiley face, and that's for reactions. And if you click on that, there's one that allows you to raise your hand. So if you raise your hand, and I'm going to try and monitor that closely. If you raise your hand, then I can let you know it's time to talk. So those are two helpful things that we can use tonight.
And Mary, if I see you, kind of give me an indication, because I can see you. If your hand up, Mary, not like this,
okay,
then I'll stop and say, hey, we got a question, and let's take those. And I'm going to let you kind of monitor it. So I'll keep glancing up at you, Mary, because I can see you.
Okay.
So let's get started. We got this great Western Dressage Association logo here, and thank you, everyone, our Michigan group. Okay, I'm hoping this will work. We're just going to go to level 1, test 1, and see if our little PDF here will work. Hoping that it's going to, maybe not. We were wondering about that.
If it doesn't, Ida, you could stop sharing. I have it pulled up on my computer, and I could share it if you wanted to be seen.
Yes, let's have Mary share for a second for us, folks. And she's going to go for it. We're going to look at Western Dressage Level Test 1. And for a minute, I'm just going to read the purpose at the top of the test, at the very top of the screen. So the purpose says, this test confirms that the horse is building on the elements from the lower levels and is developing more engagement to show sufficient impulsion as the lengthening jog and lope are performed. The horse demonstrates a more consistent, light contact with the bit. These tests introduce some collection, lateral and longitudinal balance, suppleness, and emphasis, harmony, and rideability. So these purposes at the top of the test tell us generally what it is that we're looking for.
Ida, I'm sorry, it won't let me share because we're recording. So we'll just have to go for it. I'm sorry.
No worries, because
okay.
I'm going to move along in a minute. So there always has to be some little bugaboo, ladies. That's just how it is. So you all are familiar with the test and are familiar with that right behind the numbers are the description, enter working jog. But the directives, which are in the next column, talk about what us as judges are looking for in each box and what it is that we're judging. For example, A, enter working jog, X, halt, salute, proceed working jog. And the directives, which is what we're judging, the judges are looking at: straightness, balance, square, immobile halt, with prompt, smooth jog transitions, regularity, and quality of the jog. That directive line of directives becomes very important to us as judges, or even if you're coaching people or you're a competitor, this becomes important to study these parts of the test, which help us with what is going to be evaluated and how it will be evaluated. Most people don't even read this. They just kind of skip over it. And I always say to students, read the test, read all of it. And how about the bottom boxes, which are kind of amazing in that, the collective marks under, let's say, impulsion, which is right under gates, engagement, transmission of eager, energetic, controlled, positive forward energy generated from the hindquarters into the athletic movement of the horse, suppleness of the back. We look at just the big words, but when students look at all of it and read it, they think, wow, I just learned about what impulsion is. One of the best descriptions of it ever. So reading these tests thoroughly, and they're really well written, is part of what we're looking at. I'm going to go back to sharing, ladies, so it'll take just a second. Let's see if it'll come back up for me. Share screen. Here we go. And we'll be right back there when it says share. Okay. So, and I'm just going to go to a different view for you. Okay. So, next for us is a quick review of our training wheel, which we all know this, but we should review it constantly. This is actually huge, and it's on the wall in my barn. I walk by it every day because you have to keep it memorized and you have to think about it. But rhythm, when you think about rhythm and when you see rhythm on the test, is the walk clearly 4 beats? Is the jog 2 beats? Is the lope 3 beats? Not 4 beats, 3 beats. And are the steps all even? Tempo of the football is the repetition or the speed of the rhythm. It's not the idea of rhythm like music, like the tempo, because tempo is the speed of the repetition of the footfalls, but rhythm is the jog 2 beat, is the canter 3 beat. Suppleness and relaxation is the next part of this. And if you think about starting the horse under saddle, or someone needs to mute themselves because we can hear a lot of noise in the background. So please do so, folks. Suppleness is about the horse's flexibility, its elasticity, its freedom and relaxation, but also its emotional relaxation, and it's the relaxation of the muscles while it's working. So that doesn't mean the muscles are slack, but it means that it's difficult to ride or exercise or train a tense horse. If a horse is pulled together and its muscles are tight, that's not a supple, relaxed horse. A horse that's emotionally tense or physically tense. So we're looking for that elastic freedom. We use the word connection, our next part of the wheel. And in regular dressage, they have here on the bit. Yes, we are talking about a position and about a frame and about a posture with self-carriage and uphillness and acceptance of the rider's aids. But we use the word connection and we don't talk so much about being on the bit because we're interested in the ability of our riders to ride in self-carriage, not to have the horses pulled together, not to have them driven onto the bridle, but to have the horses in relaxed acceptance of the bit and the aids. How about the fact that we ride in both saddles and bitless bridles? So bit can be used and might be on your test, but it's not used everywhere. And connection is a more appropriate phrase for us because we are interested in the connection of the horse and the balance. So the horse has to reach forward with its neck to bascule its back as the rider rides it forward, and it reaches forward to a connection with the rider, and it has its own self-carriage. We refer to it as connection. Will you get a test back sometimes in Western dressage that says your horse needs to be more on the bit? It's possible because you may be riding a horse with a bit, but this is not our most common phrasing. We talk about connection, which is the posture and the balance of the horse for correct ergonomic work at the level that that horse is at, which also means that every horse's balance and frame is different based on its age, its maturity, its soundness, what level work it's doing, how much connection and collection that it has. Impulsion, the next part of our wheel, is the willingness to move forward with energy, and that is the power against the ground. That is the energy the horse pushes against the ground, and that will propel the horse up or forward. And impulsion is one of those things that as a horse moves, we are looking for continuous impulsion because it's continuous, steady impulsion, which maintains a continuous and steady tempo. So this is very important. It's interesting to note that over the centuries, horsemen have talked a lot amongst themselves about these two, whether one or the other should be first, because these two are so interconnected. It is so difficult to get a horse into connection without enough impulsion. And without enough impulsion, the connection is unsteady. So it's very interesting that the decision to have connection before impulsion was finally settled on because you don't dare to push a horse forward until you can steer it. And so in the idea of starting a horse under saddle or even driving it or whatever, you have to be able to be sure the horse will accept the aids before you can go too forward, or you won't be able to control yourself or the horse. So fascinating development of how horsemen over the centuries decided the importance of these things. Straightness, which is the last spoke before collection. And we're going to talk a lot about this tonight because straightness is also the other side of the coin of bend. When you can control straightness and bend, you have horse in alignment, and that improves the balance. So that's a very important part of developing connection. And then all of these put together, the horse comes into collection and is light on the forehand, engages the hindquarters, and engagement is that the SI, the hocks, the stifle, and the fetlocks contract, push down against the ground, and take weight. And if the SI and the hocks do not take weight, you do not have engagement. You are looking for a flexion and a lowering of the closing of the hind legs to compress, to take weight. And it is that spring which propels the horse forward. And collection generally changes the arc of a stride in a horse because of the pressure of the compression of the hind end. So then you have this lightness of the forehand that we're talking about. So that's a real quick review for us because we're going to move right along. Here we go. Whoops, got to push on the button there. Can't get the little, there we go. Here are just some examples of level one. This was just a random shot. I couldn't actually get graphics for Western dressage, but these are just level one exercises. But what is level one about? Level one has all these exercises which have 10-meter circles and leg yield and loops and serpentines. And that is all about being able to continuously go forward and change direction or bend while keeping the horse in the same frame or the same connection, as we refer to it as, or in dressage, regular dressage, keeping the horse on the bit, which means that we will need to have the ability to move the horse forward um, and move it from one rein to another. One of the things that is the most important part about impulsion is that at first level, it needs to be continuous. This is power against the ground to propel the horse forward or upward without faltering. And continuous impulsion is necessary to keep a horse in a steady connection or on the bit. And the horse needs to be forward to the connection. We have to think about that the horse is not pulled back into a connection. So a lot of disciplines talk about setting a horse's head. Have most of you heard, like maybe you were in another division before, even Western pleasure, set their head, set their head. Well, peanut rollers, there was a long time in Western pleasure where the horses were supposed to be really low, but they're talking about setting a horse's head, or even driving horses. You'll walk into a saddlebred barn and you'll see a horse in a binning harness standing in the stall, but they are trying to teach the horse to put its head into a frame, into a position. Western dressage, which is based on Western principles, good horsemanship, and combining dressage, correct dressage principles, talks a lot about asking the horse to stay in balance, stretching the horse forward to the connection so the horse bascules its back. In order to do that, you need to keep the horse moving forward, because the idea of a horse standing in a bitting rig, all you did was teach that horse, pull his head together and, pull its head in. Fine. But without movement, we don't get the suppleness, the relaxation, the ground cover that we're looking for an athletic performance and for the horse to be ergonomically correct. And thinking about not having um, not having the problems of repetitive injury disease, because is more likely, because the horse his muscles are tight and he's bracing against you, he's more likely to have injuries. Our job is to continue to train the horse to keep it as sound as possible, to have a wonderful, healthy life with us and a happy partnership while keeping it sound. And so a major part of that is that the horse is ridden forward and the horse stretches forward to a connection. So part of first level is the skill of keeping a steady tempo with continuous impulsion. That will help to keep the connection that you're looking for. In first level, or level 1, we're expecting the horse to be willing to give in the jaw and give in the pull and to come round. So in dressage, it says right on the front of the dressage tests at level 1, must be on the bit. Ours say we need them to keep a connection, we need self-carriage, we need them to be giving to the aids. But these are euphemisms for being on the bit, because we are expecting horses at level 1 to be consistently, steadily in a connection. It's almost impossible to be successful at level 1 without this training and without this willingness of the horse to give in the pull, give in the jaw, and be soft, and to come all the way from the hind leg energy forward to the front. So sometimes known as being on the bit, or we refer to as contact to the bit, is also written on our own tests. This is the correct posture of a quadruped for ergonomic work. And when the horse takes more weight behind and it stretches forward through its top line and bascules its back, we're talking about self-carriage. And this means that the horse should not be so heavy in our hand and it's not bearing down on the bit. I think some of us in Western dressage are a little apprehensive about talking about horses being on the bit because there was a period in the late 1980s and 1990s, some of us, our age is showing because of, I've been showing dressage since 1971, so it's a long time. But there was a Germanic element within the dressage community that really drove horses into the hand, and they drove them on to the bit, and there was a lot of weight in the bridle. This is not what Western dressage is about, is so we're terrified of using this terminology in the poor sense of a bad dressage term. In the correct usage of a dressage term of the horse stretching forward to the contact, reaching into the connection, and the horse truly is on the bit and is soft and relaxed, in the good terminology of English dressage, yes, this is what we encourage. And we also refer to this primarily, you're going to see us keep saying connection, connection, connection. It means this, but because we may be using a snaffle, a bossal, a bitless bridle, it is better for us to talk about connection. So for those of you that have joined us from the dressage world and come into Western dressage, it's the softer version of being on the bit. And the differences in these terms have to do with our willingness to accept and to use, and for our very sophisticated riders have a lot of interesting bridles that we're using on horses that have come in from all different parts of life and other divisions that have come into Western dressage. And we want to welcome everyone. So that's why we're here. And that's why these terms are being used. Now, talking about bend, which, don't you just love this? Who got anybody out there that's one of my judges going, yes, on the outside aids. Yes, because we see a lot of horses pulled around on the inside. Great. And we know that all of our people are trying desperately to get bend, and we so appreciate that. And we're wanting to reward that. But it is really important that bend is established on the outside aids. So we are looking for the horse and rider to have the ability to turn or introduce bend without losing continuous impulsion or connection. And first level is where you learn that, because we were looking at all those serpentines and 10-meter circles, and we have 10-meter circles and we have 10-meter half circles, and then you're immediately going the other way. First level in dressage also has a 3-loop serpentine, which is a really good movement also for horses that are working first level Western dressage. A 3-loop serpentine is awesome. But the ability to change directions and move the bend onto the new outside aids. If you haven't noticed it, level 1 is a test, and those tests were, wow, what a great job they did writing our tests. I always say to my students, I say, they're designed for you to lose continuous impulsion. Did you see that? Those judges were tricky when they wrote those tests. They are looking for you to fail. Keep your leg on. Because if you cannot keep continuous impulsion, all of us are looking, hey, tempo change. Will they slow down? If you lose continuous impulsion, the horse will bounce off your connection. They'll come off the bit. The ability to maintain the same connection, keeping the horse on the bit or in the same posture or frame or balance while moving the horse onto the new outside aids, is the skill that you need. Now we're beginning to see that if these skills of keeping the horse in a steady connection, i.e. on the bit, while you change bend constantly, and that you have to be able to maintain the same balance of frame for the whole test, walk, trot, and canter, and some leg yield. And now you're going, wow, I'm beginning to get the idea why first level was written the way it was, because it develops you for second level. If you can't keep continuous impulsion, because your horse perceives that as you change the bend, they think that's a braking aid, like braking. If those horses are slowing down every time you change bend, you will be unable to teach them lateral movements, because every time you try to adjust their bend, they think they should slow down. And you won't have enough power to keep them going to get the exercise done, which is what develops collection. Collection is the power and the energy to keep a round frame. It is like engine compressing. RPMs and engines are that you compress energy, and once you have that energy compressed, then you can drive a car with it. And that is what engagement and impulsion put together are, and that's what collection is. It is controlled activity that can be directed, and it can go forward and come back. That's what all those lengthenings are about. And that's why we need collection for those. And we need that power for all that lateral work. So first level and getting really good scores at it and being really super at it is necessary for second level work. So the people that kind of slide through the first level, kind of maybe, not bad, maybe 65 to 68, they slide into second level, and then they kind of flounder. And usually most of them have to go back and work on these exercises. Can you actually do a 3-loop serpentine and move your horse from outside aids to outside aids without losing the bend, without losing the impulsion? If you can, you're ready to work on lateral movements, and you're ready to begin considering the work for second level. And that doesn't even mean you're going to be successful at second level. It means you probably have 6 months of just learning the lateral work, and keep talking and working with the horse about, while he learns to do all those bending exercises, because those are whole nother skills, can you keep reintroducing these basic premises which are necessary for collection? So this is why this becomes so important. I only put this in here because I wanted to point out, in first level, we have our serpentines this way in the middle, and they're pretty big. But first level dressage has the serpentines this way, the whole width of the ring. And any of these serpentines that you're doing, moving the horse from one area to another, or from one outside rein to the other, and 10-meter circles. And then we have those 10-meter circles sometimes where it's 10-meter circle and then you have to go the other way. Wow. And has anybody ever noticed that when you have 2 10-meter circles, maybe one to the right, and you immediately have to go to the one to the left, that the second one isn't as good as the first one? My judges are out there. Have you ever noticed that while you're judging? I can see Joanne Williams right there. I know she's there.
Oh, yep.
Have you noticed that, Joanne, that the second one is never as good as the first one? Oh, she's muted again. Unmute yourself.
There I
Joanne.
am.
There you go.
Yes.
Go
Yes.
for it, my girl.
All right. Absolutely. There's almost always a loss of balance and impulsion.
Because I can't keep up the energy.
Exactly.
Yes. So, and this happens as we progress through into second level, doesn't it? You've observed this judging the level 2s.
Yes.
Yes. Is Joanne there? I know Joanne was here to start, but may have had to move on. She said she had company coming. I was so glad to see her for just a minute. Isn't that great? Okay, we're going to move on to the next
Ida,
slide. Yes.
I have a question. Oh, where'd my question
Awesome.
in the chat go? I had a
Oh.
question in the chat and now it's disappeared, but oh, here it is. Why do Western dressage intro tests also talk about the bend in corners and in the shallow serpentine? So before we move on from bend, that's kind of a good question.
Okay, well that's a good one. You know, if you think about it, good. This is still here so I can draw. So let's say I'm an intro horse. And, you know, okay, here's an intro horse entering me. I'm going to go towards C. I'm used to drawing the other way. Here it comes. And they're going to turn GH. Okay, so it says track left. You know, an intro horse is not going to get too far into the corner. You know what I mean? They're going to go kind of like this because they're possibly not balanced. They might be a 4-year-old horse, or they may have an inexperienced rider. Now, because I get to judge this lady right over here, Joanne Williams. What talk about getting the corner? That woman comes in the corner, and when I'm on a video screen, I actually back up as she comes towards C. I catch myself doing this because she goes in the corner because she's riding a level 5 horse. So horses will, depending on the level, how much bend we're looking for. If you look at the intro tests and the basic tests, they just have 20-meter circles. Intro is just what? Come down center line, got a couple 20-meter circles, you just walk and trot, and you come down and there's one turn left to E, and then you you do a free walk kind of a thing. So we're talking about big turns. So, do judges expect a lot of bend? No. It does say bend, but one of the reasons it says bend, what about if you put in your mind where it says bend? As a judge, I kind of think it intro straight, because the problem is if you don't talk about bend, then somebody comes down here with the horse completely looking to the outside, counter bend, trying to go around the corner. So when you see bend, how about that the horse is straight on the tracking of where it should go? And it does say bend, but it's very, very little. Here's the next part, though. We really need to think about this. I think Joanne's still there. So Joanne, stay with me, girl, because I'm going to call on you. But
okay,
there is a real difference here between, for example, an intro horse might be able to come down this center line and not show me much bend, but they make the corner, they get around the corner kind of shallow like, but they're in a nice kind of frame and they look kind of relaxed. Everything looks fine. And they're kind of trucking along and I'm on 7. But how about a retired level 5 horse that might have some unsoundness, that he can no longer canter? And we put a beginner rider on it because we want to still be healthy and come in, and it's in an intro test. So this is a level 5 horse, and that rider rides it right down here, and they actually bend the horse and go in the corner like level 5 in intro. So that horse really did bend. So how about the idea of, I don't penalize the first horse for not doing more than it needed to, and what do I do about the horse that did more than it needed to and was capable of it? It's not that it's required to bend that much, but it's that I rewarded it for doing it. And when judges are judging, you actually do think that, like, there are, like someone said to me, well, I don't have to be on the bit in intro. It doesn't say that I have to be in a connection. It says a horse has to accept the aids. And I said, yes, but if your horse is, then it is rewarded. Can you comment on that, Joanne? I know you judge a lot of this kind of thing too. How do you feel about it? The same or different? Did I lose you? I thought Joanne was there.
are you talking to Joanne Coy or Joanne Williams?
Hey, is Joanne Coy there? Great.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
Joanne,
Yeah.
you know you were there. Great.
I'm still here. I find that in the lower levels, the riders have a lot of trouble with geometry in circles. And I
Yes.
think that has more to do with the fact that they can't put the horse in the outside rein, as you already mentioned. And so quite often I see a large circle the first time, then when I go the other way, it's a small circle. You can't seem to get it, balanced.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely reward a well-placed, well-balanced circle, no matter what level the horse may have ever competed at.
Exactly. And if someone overachieves a little bit, we reward that. We don't
yeah.
penalize it. On the
Right.
other hand, we don't necessarily penalize the 4-year-old that kind of, he's just keeping a steady tempo, but he can't make a really tight turn here because he is so green that he just kind of cuts the corners a little bit. And it's a little bit like a turn, big turn. But if he does it, he stays steady, he's in a steady balance. He can get a 7, 7.5, maybe an 8. So that's the trouble with intro, is that we never know. There's a wide variance of what will be accepted at intro, because we have truly green horses. We have truly green riders. We have some professional riders, but they came in from a different division. So they might be riding in a little bit different style or type or way than we're used to. We may have really well-trained horses with inexperienced riders. So intro can be a real grab bag, I think. What about you, Joanne Williams? I know you're right there.
When I'm looking at the intro horses, especially as far as going into the corners, I look not just for the bend, I look for the ability to match the horse's ability to maintain the energy as they do the corners. Somebody goes deep in the corner, but the horse drops out of gear. I have to penalize, I have to drop it down. If they can keep the relaxation, the energy, and go a little deeper into the corner and stay well balanced, I'm going to go up for sure on my score.
That's a good, thank you. Yes, that's a good observation. So keeping that in mind is where we want to go. I hope we've answered that question for those folks. Oh, there's Joanne right there, Joanne Williams. I asked people for pictures and Joanne was willing to help out here. Some of these photos coming are just a grab bag of people that were willing to allow us to talk about things and to talk about stuff. And they're brave people. And I told them, we're never critical here. But what we wanted to show in the next few set of slides is how big of a difference, what might be going on in a first level test, and to talk a little bit about what is going on in these pictures, and the fact that it can be really different. Like you can step up to the ring at any moment and see horses like, wow, and then, oh my goodness, that's at that level. Here's Joanne on this really nice horse. This horse is clearly headed for second level. It's probably, I know Joanne, I think this horse was really at the end of its first level work and headed for second level in this picture. But you can see the tremendous impulsion, the power. The interesting thing about this is when you see a horse reaching forward as far as it's pushing, and look at this. Here's the stifle, folks. When you see a horse that does not step past its own stifle, that's when it's pushing back or super inactive behind. And that doesn't have enough continuous impulsion. The interesting thing about this horse is it's come very round, and it's very, in the good term of dressage, this horse is truly on the bit. But the best part is it does look soft. These muscles look soft. Its mouth is closed. Its eye looks very soft. I love its ears. One is sort of one way, one is sort of the other. This tail looks soft, and these muscles do not look tight anywhere. So this horse is super round to the bridle. So in reality, this horse is a finished first level horse. If it continued all through its test in this balance, in this frame, we would be expecting this rider to be progressing towards second level, and you just see this horse going up and forward and reaching for the bridle, and this very soft, those reins don't look tight at all. And Joanne's arm looks soft. So this is super cool. This is a finished first level horse, probably I mean, I'm sure the horse had already been introduced some to the second level work, but this horse is definitely ready to go second level. No questions about it. And if it walked into or jogged into second level S1 in this connection, in this frame, in this balance, we would be expecting that would be great. It would be well rewarded. Now, here's another horse which is having a bad day. And we see horses like this in a first level test, that something goes wrong, or it's a green horse, or it's somebody that doesn't know what a first level horse is supposed to look like. And in defense of this gal, this is not a first level horse. But I sent it to you. I asked them to give me this photograph because we have horses that come into the ring, not as well prepared as others, or not as well trained. So now you can see the separation of the hind legs, see this leg pushing. This leg is not pushing. This leg is not taking as much weight. Look at the reach, but mostly hollow top line. So could be a bad day. Horse might be tense, might be shying, but at this moment, not round, not on the bit, not in connection. Those are all the terms we're going to use, and not enough impulsion to get around connection. So we're trying to learn to educate our eyes, and also what are the terms that we're going to use here. Oops, wrong one. Sorry, ladies. Okay, some more wonderful pictures. We got this horse again. Sorry, we're picking on this horse. But we do have a lot of horses or moments in tests where horses become hollow in the top line and fail to push and lose their connection. This horse is a whole nother ball game. Here is a lope that is truly uphill. Wow. And we were talking about engagement, closing of the SI, the hip, the stifle, and way under and way uphill. So we have a lovely, beautiful, balanced rider, horses leaning forward. What we like here is we don't see a lot of tension in this horse. Mouth is closed, soft eyes, wow, ears looking forward. So this is all a very engaged horse. If this horse was presented in level 1 test 4 in the lope, and this might have even been the lengthening lope, because this horse is really covering ground, which is super cool. Good score. This is another horse in the balance of being finished at first level, appropriate to be showing level 2 test 1. This is a finished looking horse. And here's the same horse, same rider, in the leg yield, showing the horse with beautiful crossing here. And in balance, and look how the tail looks soft, the muscles look soft. So these are the finished products that we're looking for this kind of thing. Now here's another, this is a different style of horse. This horse is more, this is a horse with an intro rider in a basic kind of a frame, kind of maybe like basic 4 frame, first level test 1, level 1 test 1, and a rider that's just beginning to go into these levels. And we see that the horse is active, but this horse's balance it's luckily uphill to the pole, and it reaches forward to the bit, so we like this. If this rider presented herself in the level 1 tests, this horse, would probably had continuous impulsion. It was soft. The rider produced, okay movements. This is kind of the 7 horse, but you just looked at that horse back there. Let's just back up for a second and look at this horse. Look at it. So now you're beginning to say, oh, okay, I'm beginning to see in first level the difference between that horse back there and this horse here. I'm thinking this horse is a 75-80 in level 1 in this balance. It's uphill, it's tremendous engagement. It's already showing some efforts of collection, super supple, obviously very experienced rider. Then we see this one. Okay, this horse looks loose. It's in a steady balance. It's a little uphill. I like that she's reaching to the bridle. She looks relaxed. Here's a really good picture of a center line, which this rider with this, look at this shirt, goes right straight down the middle of that horse. Isn't that amazing? And you can tell that the pole in this arena is right behind that rider, which means she's right on the center line. So a lot of good things here. So I'm thinking the other horse is a 75-80. I'm thinking this one's, depending on this rider's talent, this is a 68 to a 71. If you can kind of understand the difference between the balance, the connection, how this is looking, we're beginning to get a feel for what we're looking for here. This gal very kindly, this is Dana Roberts. She's from the Georgia group, and she's my IT girl for the group. And all of you, by the way, are invited to the first Tuesday of the month. The Georgia group has us, and we're working on a different set of Zoom all about jargon. What are the numbers and what are the words and what are they getting at? So, and everybody's invited to send in their weird comments, their strange comments, and the comments they didn't understand, and see if we can figure out what they mean. But Dana runs those calls for me. She's super cool, and she's learning. And the progression on this horse is amazing. Here she was at intro, and here she was in basic, and she's beginning to get her alignment. She's still a little eager. She says she has trouble sitting back, but the horse is beginning to push more. It's coming more into connection. It's becoming softer to her hand. She's beginning to get it forward. Although this horse, she has to watch. You see the point of the hip right here? She has to watch the balance a little bit with this horse, but beautiful intro, basic. And here she said, she did say to me, I am working on my equitation. It's going to get those hands together. But now look at the change between here and here. This horse is now covering ground. It's more through the back. It's reaching forward into the bridle. It is transmitting energy and covering ground more, which is amazing. Do you see this right here in the jog? It wasn't quite tracking up. So now, sorry, that might be the one. But now she's covering more ground and the horse is more active. So we're seeing a progression with a horse. And we're also seeing that he tends to be very relaxed, tends to be soft, and the rider's working on her equitation. So that continuous impulsion and staying on the bit is super cool. Here are 2 Tennessee walkers. This is Wallace Steinbecker, and this is a horse whose name is Wicked Wolf, also known as Timber, affectionately known as Timber, one of my all-time favorite horses. This is an amazing horse. And Tamara Steinbecker, she's president of the Georgia group, and got my call started down there. She's an amazing woman for WDAA, does so much work for all of us. This is a young horse of hers, and this shows you a difference of these 2 horses. You can see that this one is active, but that as he pushes himself forward, he pushes a little into her hand, and you see her hand go wide. He pushes onto the hand, and he's just a hair, like we want that nose forward a little because this pushes him a little downhill. But we see a lot of horses in level 1 that are pushing onto the hand, and the riders are desperately trying to keep the horse round or on the bit or in connection. And for a moment, the hands are maybe too wide or too tight, and the horse comes round. He flexes his neck, but he's no longer reaching forward to the bridle. And so they can go a little downhill in that position. When the tests say bracing top line, they're either doing this or they're bracing just slightly above the bit. And in either case, the top line isn't as supple as we want, and we want the balance to change a little bit. This was an inexperienced horse, and I asked her if I could ask for this horse's picture, because many horses are in the ring in this balance, but this is actually only a basic horse. She was not presenting it in level 1 in this photograph, but we do have a lot of horses in this balance. And it shows you that gaited horses can be round to the bridle. And there is a great idea out there that because of neck oscillation, these horses will not be really on the bit. They can be on the bit, and they're beautiful. This horse has a real talent for it. Wallace was showing this horse at a low level, but this is a higher level horse. But he has a beautiful energy going here, and he has a nice connection. He's definitely given to the hand. And you can see that Wallace is learning to be more elastic, but at this moment, he could have been more elastic, but this horse is definitely willing and stays in a good connection despite some stiffness in the elbow and hand here. But you've got a rider sitting up nice and tall. I love that he's looking ahead, and this horse is reaching to the bridle and using his back. So we see a huge variation in level 1. I think intro and level 1 are two of the places where we see a wide variation of horses and riders' skills. Some people seem to be just barely managing it, and some people are almost, they're almost ready for level 2, and they can even be right in the same class. Joanne Williams is right there. Have you noticed that, Joanne, or is that just me?
Well, there's definitely a wide variety in the lower levels. Even within experienced horses with the green riders who kind of know what they should do, but they're kind of pulling and kicking, and the horse is going along, going, "I'm doing the thing. Can you leave me alone?" and the good professionals and good amateurs with the greener horses, just sending them forward. And you see some horses like the bay horse you showed earlier, they're relaxed over the top line, they're reaching to the bridle, but they're not really connected yet. And as long as they're going forward, they can still get a good score, but not as good as a horse that's more polished and
Yes.
gives all the qualities instead of just two of the qualities that we would have.
Or even that you see that connectedness or over the top line a little coming and going, or not as strong, or not as consistently strong as you're hoping for.
Right.
Yeah. Because a horse like that may actually stay very steady in their frame, and you wish that they were more through their back. However, that's way better than the horse that's flipping their head and counterbend.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we give them, we're like, yes, it's satisfactory to fairly good almost all of the time. And that's what we're marking.
And I would expect a first level horse to, have little mistakes in the connection.
Yes.
I this is going to sound really stupid, maybe,
No,
but ones that are rock steady can have the appearance, or maybe they really are locked up. They
yeah.
can't, they have no suppleness, but the head never moves.
Yes.
And they
That's
never make
true.
a mistake in the connection, but the connection isn't really a connection.
Yes. And don't we feel like we see that shows up as they go through the corners and through the circles,
Yes.
because they don't actually bend, just stand upright and go around.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's a good observation. Here is Tammy again, Tamara Steinbecker on one of her super cool walking horses, and this is Tex T-Rex. Yes, TEA Rex, T-Rex. He's awesome. This is a young, very young horse. And once again, what she was willing to allow me to have this photograph for a number of reasons, but I asked her, please, could I have this? I know that you were not presenting him at level 1, but I actually have a lot of people come in the ring in level 1 in this connection, and we have to write on the test, not round enough to the connection. Although this horse showed a lot of energy right at this moment, and what a beautiful rider. I mean, the alignment is lovely, and hands super close together and in front of her horn, and look at her looking up. Like, I love this rider's alignment. This is a young, very young horse. He was being shown at a very low level, but this picture, we really have a lot of horses come in level 1, and they aren't meeting all of the requirements, which is continuous impulsion, enough power to keep the horse rounder. We do like the fact that he has his mouth closed, eyes look soft, ears look active, and he has a soft connection. But this frame or position or whatever you want to say about his amount of on the bitness is perfectly acceptable for intro and does okay in basic. We'd like him to accept the connection a little bit more for basic, but it is really on the edge of marginal for level 1. And people do present themselves in this frame, the horse in this balance. And it's tricky, judges, we're here to tell you the truth, but we hate giving low scores. Oh, it's so painful. And we do, because we know that you won't get better if we're not honest with you. But it's painful and it's hard to do, and we don't like it. So don't think we sleep well at night. We do it, but it doesn't mean we're mean. It just means that we know that if we lie to people, they won't get better. And you have to understand the requirements of the level so that you can meet them and be successful. And we want the horses and riders to be successful. So we're trying in the kindest way to encourage people. I think this is Kim, and she was here. And she let me have this picture of this amazing quarter horse, because I said to her, I have so many other styles of horses, but I really want a horse that's built like this to show you the power of this rear end. And look at this thing. It's just trucking. It's in what we call a very horizontal balance. And one of the things that she did was share with me some pictures which are coming. So this horse was in the middle of its level 1 year when she got this photograph, and it was doing okay. It was getting pretty good scores, kind of 70-ish, kind of 70, 71, 72 here, maybe. But it was very willing, has its mouth is closed, soft eye, ears look great. She's got her hands right together, pretty good alignment. Horse is moving along. The only tricky part is, it can be, horses are not always uphill here. And there are lots of horses which are not high at the withers naturally. So the tricky part for them is that when you ask them to come round, sometimes drop. And at this moment, this was a little dropped, but still, because of the energy and the power and the impulsion, you know, if this horse during a whole movement looked like this, I'm sure it got 7 and 7.5, because if it would keep a steady connection and it would get around the movement with a little bit of bend in level 1, it's kind of a 7, an occasional 7.5, and the judges are going to say, you know, be careful to keep the pole higher, try to let the horse just, it needs to take the nuchal ligament and lift up a little bit here, because it needs to lift the thoracic right here. Amazingly enough, though, this horse has tremendous reach and it's doing a good job. Now, here's the amazing part. When I asked him if I could use this picture, this is what she sent me next, which was so exciting. A year later, this is the same horse. And now we have the uphill development that we were looking for, how horses develop. And we keep talking about Western dressage. If you ride correctly and follow the principles of the training wheel, the horses develop. And this horse is going uphill in the lope. Wow. And now it's a little bit more reaching forward and the pole's a little bit higher. And here it is. And I think this was a leg yield, but its pole is a little higher and it's looking very flexible. And once again, I just love about this horse, like its mouth is closed and it has a soft eye and its ears look great and its tail is just so swishy. Nice. So the development, it's really fun to have 2 or 3 pictures from the same riders. Thank you so much for letting us look at this. So these pictures were at the very end of the level 1 and into the level 2 that she was developing collection. And there it is on the same horse and same rider. We have a couple of tutorial videos, which we wanted to just leave in here because we are recording this. And, you know, in level 1, by the time you get to level 1, you really should be able to get on the center line. And I don't know about the rest of the judges, but I'm impatient with that. You've been turning on the center line since intro, test 1. And there's 4 tests, and now you're up to 8, 9 tests. Get on the center line. The next thing is, it says halt, salute. That means you need to halt and be immobile before you salute. Don't be saluting while the horse is moving. That isn't what the test says. It says halt, immobility, salute. So these are some tutorials to help you with saluting, to do a good salute that a judge can see. And keep in mind, if you loosely drop your arm down here and you're in an arena where I can just see a silhouette of you, this rider with this black shirt with this black horse, and she's in an arena with the door open behind her, like how about at Whirls when the lighting is weird sometimes? You can't see their arm because their hand goes right down behind their leg. And then God forbid that this horse looks over this way because the crowd's clapping. If that head goes even here, I can't see if your hand came off the rein. So work on salutes that are super clear and that you halt long enough to let the judge sit down so they can look at you before they move off. Don't do a 2-second salute and I'm still sitting down. I can't pay attention to your move off. And here's a good one on how to improve your center line so that you can get a big score. Because when a judge looks at a center line, this looks like one set of legs. Wow. And check this out, level. And check this out, straight. Right down the middle, right through that rider's nose, right down her chest, right straight down. That's when you're talking about they're straight on the center line. So this is tutorials to help you out with that. Joanne was willing to send us some more pictures. Thank you, thank you, thank you, of horses that were progressing in training. And this horse is already, you know, at the end of really second level work like this round to the bridle. Now, what happens when a bad moment happens is a horse gets too round and gets behind forehand. If it gets blocked in the front or if it's having a bad moment, it's the hands. This is what happens when this frame goes wrong for a moment. This horse has so much power, it pushes itself down and gets behind. And I only put that in because it can happen momentarily, or you can have a horse that does it all through a test in level 1. And you're hoping it only happens for a second. If it only happens for a second, a judge takes off a little deduction, not much. But if a horse comes in and the whole test is in this frame, it's a toss-up whether the judge will be worse on this or they will let a horse that's slightly above the bit going forward get a better score, because they're both not good. But it's very important that the horse not get behind the bridle. So Joanne was so kind to help. Some of you know my student, Kristen Kill, and you'll recognize Samson. And Kristen sent me this recently and said, I'm amazed at just my headshots. This is Samson in his level 1 work. And this is Samson this year in his level 2 work. The same horse, in the same bridle, in the same position, headshot. And this shows you the underneck and the tension in the muscles. And Kristen said to me, I didn't realize I had my horse a little pulled together here. Look at that. And she had learned from all of her work this year about throughness. And look at the nuchal ligament. Look how smooth it is. And here it is not smooth. And look at these muscles, nice and big and round, and these are tight. And the under muscle is here, and this is going away. And then the interesting thing is look how tight this looks, and look how soft and round and round and muscular his shoulder has developed tremendously here. So the very same horse in a headshot 1 year later, where now the horse is reaching forward to a connection. Here he was in a connection, but looked tight. And that second spoke of the training wheel, the relaxation, suppleness, and lack of tension in the muscling was missing in this photograph and is present here. Now we can use the word throughness. And people say to me, they think that word's elusive, they don't understand it. But this picture helps us visually say, I get it now. I understand throughness. This horse right here in these 2 photographs really show it to us. Mary, have you got anybody in the chat?
We had a couple of chats, but the first one was from Kim Depp. That first picture you showed us was her horse actually in basic training, but we saw how
that was me.
Yeah. And then,
oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, Kim. That was amazing for basic, wasn't it? Thank you for correcting me. So that horse was doing really, really well in basic and was clearly ready to go into level 1. So awesome. Thank you, Kim. Yes.
And Joanne just said that all of the pictures were of the same pony when you were comparing Joanne Williams's horse. And then Wallace says Samson is such a hunk. So wasn't really a question. But
Wallace said that is Tamara Steinbreck's husband. Hi, Wallace. And Samson is Kim and Bob Kill's horse, and Samson is a hunk. He is amazing. Yes. We have, oh, that's just my accomplishments. If you don't know who I am, go look it up. We don't have to brag. Y'all know who I am. But for those people that need to find me,
Oh, Joanne Williams has her
contact
hand raised.
information.
Ida, Joanne Williams has her hand.
Okay, Joanne, jump in there.
Okay.
Perfect. Joanne, you're so polite.
No, you're so brilliant and so articulate. So I just wanted to add something to your little discussion about the center line. So in
Yeah.
intro and basic, it's clearly in the test you are allowed to walk in and walk out
Of the hall.
in the
Yes.
center line.
Yes.
In level 1, it does not say through the walk.
Oh, thank goodness you brought that up.
And if somebody ever, so many riders at all the levels, they can halt from the jog or the lope, but then they walk a bunch of steps coming out of the halt. And no matter how perfect everything else is, I'm still like, oh, I maybe I'm on 7.5, maybe I'm on 8. But if they can go right from that halt into the jog or into the lope, I'm thinking, wow, okay, 8, 9, 10, if all the pieces are in place. So I would really like people to pay attention to that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I know that our WD judges are a little generous with that, but I will just point out to you, because dressage is such a similar discipline to us, and because the judging is similar and the numbers are the same, you can, some of those judges take off 2 points for that in dressage. And I don't know that our Western judges are doing that, and I'm not saying they are, so don't ring me out on Facebook, folks.
Nope.
But I want you to think about this, because the test says, halt, jog. And if you do halt, walk, jog, is that not an error of test? And an error of test is -2. Can I ring the bell and say, you want to do that over? Because I'm taking an error, and then let's see if you can do it. I haven't seen any judges do that. I'm not sure if our judges are going to do that. Probably the Judges Education Committee. I don't know if Joanne's there. So well, if she's here, she can chime in now, because she's our Judges Education. But I do know that dressage judges really get hung up on this, because that's an error of test. And they don't ring the bell, but they mark it way down. And it is low. And I would like to see us give this more attention. I'm not saying it has to be that low, and I'm not saying I would give it a 4. That's not what I'm saying. But I am harder than you on that, I'll tell you, because that is a simple thing. I'm going to ask you for leg yield and 10-meter circles, and walk, canter, departs are coming, and you can't walk, jog. And you've been doing walk, jog since we have halt to jog in the, isn't that in the last intro test? So they should have been doing it for a whole level. So to miss that, to me, is a real basic mistake. So warning to competitors, this might be looked at. I don't know if Joanne Coy is out there. If you are, Joanne Coy, jump in here, because I don't know what the Judges Education Committee is going to say, but that's a very basic thing. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Joanne, because there has been a lot of this, and I actually saw it in some in level 2 and level 3, and at that level, I had no patience with it. It is really an error of test at those levels, so it should not be let go. So yes, please don't be slack about that, folks. Pay attention. Good job. Thanks, Joanne, for bringing that up. Anybody else? I hope there was some information here that y'all found helpful. And if there are any more questions, we'll take them. If you have any that you think of later and want to send me a text or an email or whatever, use all these contact buttons. We look forward to seeing you. We invite you to the call the first Tuesday of the month.
Second Tuesday. Oh, to Georgia.
Yeah, to the Georgia call. We invite you all into the Georgia call the first Tuesday of the month, and the second Tuesday for us here will be a continuation of level 2. We would love to have some pictures of your level 2 horses and any concerns or problems you might have. So send those to me and I will begin processing and getting the call together for us. And we'll have more interesting things to talk about as we go along. What are the requirements and what does level 2 bring our horses along to do? I hope you all enjoyed this and I wish you all very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And thank you, Mary, and thank you, Carol. Thank you all for joining in and for being here. I know you're all busy in December. So take care and we'll see you again hopefully next month. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ida.
Bye-bye.
I'm
You're welcome.
going
It's
to
a pleasure.
post this video recording. It'll be up on the Wadami site as soon as I can get it processed. So if people want to look
Thank you.
at it again. So I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you again, Ida. It was wonderful.